The thunderstorm raged across the Montana Territory, as Nora Riley huddled beneath the leaking roof of her father's general store, clutching her malformed left hand close to her chest as if the lightning might reveal her secret shame to the empty shelves. It was 1876, and at 22, she had long since learned to hide her twisted fingers fused together since birth and curled inward like a gnarled branch from the prying eyes of Copper Creek's less forgiving citizens. "Nora!" The shipments arrived. Her father called from the front porch, his voice nearly drowned by the downpour. "Best come help before everything's soaked through." She tugged her sleeve down, covering her left hand before hurrying outside. The rain was relentless, turning Main Street into a river of mud. Through the curtain of water, she spotted the supply wagon and a tall figure directing the unloading. Even drenched, his movements were sure and steady. "Miss Riley." The stranger nodded as she approached. Water streamed from the brim of his hat, but his eyes, startlingly blue against his tanned face, found hers. "Cole Rafferty. Your father hired me to bring supplies from Helena." "Thank you, Mr. Rafferty," she said, reaching for a crate with her right hand while keeping her left tucked into her skirt pocket. "Here, let me," he offered, easily hoisting 2 heavy crates. "Lead the way." Inside, her father was already opening boxes, his excitement palpable. "Good haul this time. Medicines we've been waiting on for months. Nora, start unpacking the dry goods." She nodded, carefully using her good hand to arrange items on the shelves. Cole Rafferty moved efficiently, bringing in the last of the supplies. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a quiet confidence that didn't demand attention like the local cowboys who stomped into the store with spurs jingling and voices booming. "You staying in town long, Mr. Rafferty?" her father asked. "Planning to settle, actually," Cole replied, removing his hat to reveal dark hair in need of a trim. "Bought the old Peterson place. Needs work, but the grazing land's good." "That's 10 miles out," Nora said without thinking. "That land's been empty since the drought drove the Petersons east." Cole smiled, the expression warming his weather-lined face. "I don't mind the solitude, Miss Riley. Or the challenge." The bell above the door jangled, admitting Walter Jenkins and his 2 sons. The Jenkins family owned the largest cattle operation in the county, their wealth affording them a particular kind of arrogance. "Thomas Riley," Walter boomed. "We need supplies. Boys got caught in this deluge checking fence lines." His gaze drifted to Nora, then to Cole. "New face in town?" "Cole Rafferty," her father supplied. "Just brought our monthly shipment from Helena. Buying the Peterson place." Walter's eldest son, Philip, snickered. "That dried-up patch of nothing? Good luck finding water there." Cole merely nodded. "I appreciate the concern. Nora," Walter said, "fetch us some coffee while we wait out this storm. Your father can put it on our account." She moved to the small stove at the back of the store where a pot was kept warm. As she reached for the cups, her sleeve caught on a nail, pulling back to expose her left hand. Philip spotted it immediately. "Lord Almighty, I forgot about that claw of hers." He nudged his brother. "How'd you like to have that touching you?" Heat flooded Nora's face as she quickly tucked her hand away, but the damage was done. The Jenkins boys laughed. "Enough," her father said sharply, but Walter Jenkins merely shrugged. "Just boys being boys, Thomas. No harm meant." But his smile suggested otherwise. Cole Rafferty had gone very still, his blue eyes fixed on the Jenkins family with an intensity that silenced the room. Without a word, he moved to where Nora stood, took the coffee pot from her trembling right hand, and filled the cups himself. "I'll deliver these," he said quietly. As he turned, he added in a voice meant only for her, "Some men mistake cruelty for wit. It's a poor substitute." The storm passed, and the Jenkins family departed with their supplies. Cole lingered, helping to stack the remaining crates. "You don't need to stay," Nora said, embarrassed by the earlier scene. "I'm sure you want to see your new property before dark." "I've seen it," he replied, breaking down an empty crate with efficient movements. It'll still be there tomorrow. Your father mentioned you might have some vegetable seed stock for sale. We do. She led him to the seed cabinet, careful to use only her right hand as she sorted through packets. What were you thinking of planting? Everything that might grow. I've got ambitions for that dried-up patch of nothing. His gentle mockery of Philip Jenkins' words made her smile despite herself. They fell into easy conversation about crop rotation and soil conditions. Cole knew farming as well as ranching, it seemed, and spoke of his plans to divert the creek that ran through his property for irrigation. You've thought this through, she observed. I've had time to think. Something in his tone suggested a longer story. 4 years riding from Texas to Montana gives a man plenty of that. As he paid for the seeds, their hands brushed. She quickly withdrew hers, but not before his eyes caught the movement. Instead of the disgust or pity she was accustomed to, his expression remained unchanged. I'll be back for more supplies next week, he said, settling his hat back on his head. Maybe you could advise me on what else I might need. After he left, her father commented, Seems a decent sort. Not like most drifters. He doesn't strike me as a drifter, Nora replied, watching Cole Rafferty's tall figure disappear down the muddy street. Over the next weeks, Cole became a regular visitor to the store. Unlike most of the town's inhabitants, he spoke directly to Nora, asking her opinion on various supplies, sharing stories of his progress at the farm. He never mentioned her hand, and his eyes never strayed to it when it was visible. One rainy afternoon, he arrived with a wagon full of fresh vegetables. First harvest, he announced proudly. Thought you might sell some here. Her father was delighted. Fresh produce was hard to come by, and Cole's prices were fair. As they unloaded the wagon, Nora found herself working alongside him, forgetting to hide her left hand as she arranged tomatoes and green beans. You've worked miracles with that land, she said. No one thought it would produce anything again. Most things just need the right care and a chance to thrive, he replied, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. People too. The bell jangled, and Nora instinctively withdrew her hand as Philip Jenkins entered with his fiancée, Clara Thompson, on his arm. Well, if it isn't the miracle farmer, Philip drawled. Heard you were growing things out on that wasteland. Didn't believe it. Clara's eyes lit up at the sight of the vegetables. Oh, these look wonderful. She reached for a tomato, her delicate fingers a stark contrast to Nora's hidden hand. Miss Thompson, Miss Riley was just helping me arrange the display, Cole said smoothly. She has quite an eye for presentation. Philip snorted. Better than her hand for it, I imagine. He turned to Clara. Watch she doesn't touch anything you plan to eat, dear. That twisted hand of hers might spoil it. Clara giggled nervously, her eyes darting to Nora's concealed hand. The store fell silent. Nora's father had stepped outside to help another customer, leaving her to face this humiliation alone. She felt her throat tightening, tears threatening. Cole Rafferty straightened to his full height, standing so close to Nora that their shoulders almost touched. Mr. Jenkins, he said, his voice dangerously soft. A man reveals his character not by how he treats his equals, but by how he treats those he believes beneath him. Philip's face reddened. Now see here, no. Cole cut him off. You see here. He took Nora's left hand in his, gently unfolding it from where she'd hidden it against her skirt. The gesture was so unexpected that she didn't resist as he raised it between them, his thumb caressing the bent fingers with tenderness. They mocked her crippled hand, he said, looking directly into Nora's startled eyes. But I say, then you'll hold my heart just fine. The silence in the store was absolute. Clara's mouth had fallen open. Philip's face mottled with fury. Come, Clara, he said stiffly. We'll shop elsewhere. After they stormed out, Nora slowly pulled her hand from Cole's grasp. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered, though something warm was unfurling in her chest. I should have done it sooner, he replied. And I'll do it again if necessary. 2 days later, Cole appeared at the store just before closing time. "I thought you might like to see my farm," he said without preamble. "If your father can spare you for an afternoon." To her surprise, her father agreed readily. "Take tomorrow. I can manage the store." The next day dawned clear and bright. Cole arrived with his wagon, helping her up onto the seat with a steadying hand at her elbow. As they left town, Nora felt the weight of watching eyes. News of Cole's defense of her had spread rapidly, but for once, she didn't shrink beneath the attention. "People will talk," she said once they were on the open road. "People always talk," he replied. "Question is, do you care what they say?" She considered this. "I've cared too much for too long." He nodded as if this made perfect sense. "There comes a point when you realize other people's opinions are just that, opinions. Not facts. Not your truth." The 10 miles passed quickly as Cole told her about his journey from Texas. He'd fought in the war, then drifted, working ranches across the territories until he decided it was time to put down roots. "Why here?" she asked. "This isn't exactly promised land. Saw potential others missed," he said simply. When they crested the final hill, Nora gasped. The Peterson place had been transformed. New fencing surrounded lush vegetable gardens. The creek had been diverted into irrigation channels. The old cabin sported a new roof and a freshly built porch. Fruit trees, still young but healthy, lined the drive. "Cole, this is—" she struggled for words. "A work in progress," he finished for her, but his smile was proud. "Come, I'll show you around." The tour revealed a man of vision and determination. Where others had seen barren land, Cole had seen possibility. He dug a new well, planted drought-resistant crops, and even constructed a small greenhouse from salvaged glass and lumber. The vegetables at the store were just the beginning, he explained as they walked through rows of thriving plants. "By next year, I'll have enough to supply half the county." Inside the cabin, the transformation continued. Simple but sturdy furniture, shelves lined with books, a kitchen with copper pots hanging from hooks all spoke of permanence, of a home rather than merely a dwelling. "You did all this in just months?" she marveled. "Had a lot of time to plan," he said. "And strong motivation." As afternoon stretched toward evening, they sat on the new porch, drinking coffee. The light caught the gold in Cole's dark hair, and Nora realized she never felt so comfortable in anyone's presence. "Why did you defend me?" she asked suddenly. "In the store, with Philip Jenkins." Cole set down his cup, considering his words. "My mother had a saying, the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. But I don't see you as vulnerable, Nora. I see strength in you, the quiet kind that endures. Most people just see this," she said, raising her left hand. "Most people lack imagination." He looked out over his flourishing land. "They said this place was dead too. Sometimes it takes different eyes to see what's possible." As the sun began to set, he drove her back to town. At the store, he helped her down from the wagon, but didn't immediately release her hand. "I'd like to call on you properly," he said. "With your father's permission." Her heart stuttered. "People will say you're settling for less." "People would be wrong." His blue eyes held hers. "I know what I want, Nora." "Do you?" For the first time in her life, she didn't hide her hand as she reached up to touch his face. "I'm beginning to." Cole began calling on Nora regularly. They took Sunday drives, attended church together, and occasionally shared meals at the small hotel restaurant. Each time, she felt the weight of stares, heard the whispers, but with Cole beside her, they seemed to matter less. One evening, as they walked along the creek that bordered town, Cole asked about her hand. "Born this way," she explained, no longer hiding it from him. "The doctor in Helena said the bones didn't form right. Nothing to be done." "Does it pain you?" "Sometimes in cold weather. Mostly it's just—" she paused. "A part of me I've learned to work around." "You're remarkable, you know," he said. "Most people would have hidden away." "I did hide in my way," she admitted. Behind the counter. Behind my father. Cole took her left hand in his, examining it closely in the fading light. These fingers may not straighten, but they've still done good work. I've seen you arrange displays, wrap packages, count inventory. His touch was gentle as he traced each gnarled digit. There's nothing wrong with working differently. Something in his understanding broke a dam within her. Tears welled and spilled before she could stop them. All those years, she whispered, thinking I was less. Believing what they said. He drew her close, his arms strong around her. You were never less. Just different. And difference isn't deficit. As autumn painted the mountains gold and crimson, Cole's farm prospered. He hired 2 local boys to help with the harvest and began construction on a larger barn. Nora found herself spending more time there, helping with accounts and planning the next season's crops. Her father watched this development with knowing eyes. He's a good man, he said one evening as they closed the store. Steady. Hard-working. Yes, she agreed, unable to keep the smile from her voice. He looks at you like you're the sunrise. Her father continued. That's rare, Nora. Rarer than perfect hands or perfect faces. The Harvest Festival in October brought the county together in the town square. Tables groaned with food, a band played, and lanterns cast a golden glow over the proceedings. Cole's vegetables won several prizes, bringing him newfound respect from even the most skeptical townspeople. As the dancing began, Nora sat watching from the sidelines, as she had every year. Cole was engaged in conversation with several ranchers, gesturing toward the mountains as he explained something about watershed management. Philip Jenkins approached her table, clearly having had too much of the festival punch. Clara was nowhere in sight. Still alone at the dance, I see, he said, swaying slightly. Even with your farmer friend making eyes at you, you can't manage to keep his attention. Please leave me be, Philip, she said quietly. You know why he's really here, don't you? Philip leaned closer, his breath sour. Man buys the worst land in the county, works like a dog to make something of it. He's running from something. Probably got a wife back in Texas. Or worse. That's enough. Cole's voice came from behind Philip, cold and hard as January ice. Philip turned, smirking. Just making conversation with the lady. No, you were insulting her. And me. Cole's eyes flashed. This is the second time I've found you doing so. There won't be a third. Or what? Philip's hand drifted toward his belt, when Nora knew he sometimes carried a small derringer. Or I'll demonstrate that I didn't spend 4 years on the frontier learning just farming, Cole said quietly. Several nearby conversations ceased as people turned to watch. Walter Jenkins materialized at his son's side. That's enough, Philip. You're drunk. He nodded curtly to Cole. Rafferty. Jenkins. Cole's voice was level, but his eyes never left Philip. Walter tugged his son away, muttering sharp words that didn't quite carry to where Nora sat. Cole took the vacant seat beside her. I apologize for that scene. It wasn't your doing, she replied. But, is what he said true? Are you running from something? His expression softened. Not in the way he meant. I fought in the war, Nora. Saw things, did things I'm not proud of. Afterward I drifted, trying to find something that felt like purpose again. He looked out at the festival lights. This land, this community, it's my attempt to build rather than destroy. The band struck up a waltz. Couples swirled across the makeshift dance floor. Would you dance with me? He asked suddenly. Nora stared at him, her heart racing. I can't dance. I never learned. I'm not much good at it myself, he admitted. But I'd like to try. With you. He stood and offered his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she placed her right hand in his. He shook his head, gently taking her left hand instead, the one she had hidden all her life. This one, he said softly. As they stepped onto the dance floor, Nora felt every eye upon them. But Cole's steady gaze never wavered from hers. He placed her left hand on his shoulder, took her right in his, and began to lead her in a simple box step. "See?" he murmured. "Not so difficult." They moved together, a bit awkwardly at first, then with growing confidence. His hand was warm at her waist, his steps sure. The whispering around them faded as she lost herself in the moment. "I never thought I'd dance," she confessed. "I never thought I'd find peace," he countered. "Life surprises us." As the music ended, he didn't release her immediately. Instead, he led her away from the crowd, toward the old church garden where lanterns hung from tree branches, casting dappled light across the path. "Nora," he said when they were alone, "I know this may seem sudden to some, but not to me. I've known since that day in the rain what you are to me." Her breath caught. "And what is that?" "Everything." He took both her hands in his, the damaged and the whole. "I love you. Your kindness, your strength, your patience with the stubborn farmer who showed up in your store dripping wet and never wanted to leave." She laughed softly, tears blurring her vision. "I thought you were just interested in vegetable seeds." "I was interested in planting roots," he corrected her. "With you." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a simple gold ring. "This was my mother's. I've carried it all these years, waiting to find someone worthy of it. Someone with the courage to face life's hardships without becoming hard." He looked into her eyes. "Will you marry me, Nora Riley? Will you build a life with me?" The words she had never expected to hear, the future she had never dared imagine, they were suddenly before her, as real as the man holding her hands. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." He slipped the ring onto her right hand. "Perfect fit," he said, smiling. "But," she began, glancing at her left hand, "is exactly as it should be," he finished for her. "The hand that will hold my heart, remember?" They were married in the town church the first Sunday of November. The church was filled to capacity. Some came out of genuine goodwill, others from curiosity, but Nora found she didn't care about their motives. Her father walked her down the aisle, his pride evident in the tears he didn't bother to hide. Cole waited at the altar, tall and handsome in a new suit, his eyes never leaving her as she approached. When the minister asked who gave this woman, her father placed her left hand, her imperfect, beautiful hand, into Cole's steady one. "Her mother and I," he said, his voice breaking slightly. The vows were simple, the promises profound. When it came time for the rings, Cole had a surprise. He presented her with her mother's gold band for her right hand, and a delicate silver one specially made to fit the unique shape of her left ring finger. "So both hands remember they're cherished," he explained softly. Winter came to Montana with a vengeance that year. Snow piled in drifts against the newly reinforced walls of their home. Inside, Nora and Cole created a haven of warmth and comfort. She hung curtains sewn from fabric ordered from Helena, arranged her books beside his on the shelves, and filled the cabin with the scent of baking bread and stews simmering on the stove. In the evenings, they planned for spring. Cole worked on designs for expanding the greenhouse and orchard, while Nora kept meticulous records of the previous harvest and calculated what they would need for the coming year. "I've been thinking," she said one night as they sat before the fire. "What if we added a small section to the store in town? A permanent place to sell our produce, preserves, maybe even seeds from our strongest plants." Cole looked up from his sketches, his expression thoughtful. "A farm-to-store operation. That's forward-thinking, Mrs. Rafferty." She still thrilled at the name. "We could start small. See if there's interest." "I like it," he decided. "Your father could use the additional business, and it gives us a reason to be in town regularly." "You're not worried about the competition?" she asked. "The Jenkins Mercantile carries some similar items." "Competition breeds excellence," he said. "And I have faith in our quality." When spring finally melted the snowdrifts, they put their plan into action. Cole built sturdy display cases for the corner of Riley's general store, and Nora created bright signs advertising Rafferty Farm fresh goods. Her father, delighted with the arrangement, gave them pride of place near the front window. The venture proved immediately successful. Townspeople who had previously avoided shopping when Nora was working the counter now came specifically to purchase her preserves and Cole's early vegetables. Even Clara Jenkins, now Mrs. Philip Jenkins, became a regular customer, though her husband never accompanied her. "These pickled beans are divine, Nora," Clara said one afternoon, her previous disdain apparently forgotten in the face of superior preserves. "Could you show me how you make them? Mine always turn out mushy." Nora, surprised by the overture, agreed. "Come by the farm next week. I'll be putting up a new batch." As Clara left, Cole leaned against the counter beside Nora. "Look at you, making social plans with the elite of Copper Creek." She smiled. "Strange how good vegetables can change people's minds about associating with the crippled girl." He shook his head. "It's not the vegetables. It's you. They're finally seeing what I saw from the beginning." By summer, Rafferty Farm had become something of a local wonder. The irrigation system Cole designed turned the once barren land into a green oasis. Fruit trees blossomed, vegetable rows stretched toward the horizon, and the greenhouse produced herbs and flowers that Nora dried and sold in decorative bundles. They hired more help, 2 more local boys and a young widow named Sarah who had a special touch with the herb garden. The farm buzzed with activity from dawn until dusk. One sweltering July afternoon, as Nora worked in the cool of the root cellar, organizing the early harvest, she heard rapid footsteps on the ladder. "Nora!" Cole's voice was urgent. "Fire at your father's store!" Her heart stopped. "Papa? He's safe, but the damage is severe. We need to go." They raced to town to find Riley's general store engulfed in smoke. The volunteer fire brigade had managed to contain the blaze, but the interior was charred beyond recognition. Her father sat on a bench across the street, his face blackened with soot, a blanket around his shoulders despite the summer heat. "Papa!" Nora rushed to him. "What happened?" "Lamp oil," he said, his voice hoarse. "Spilled near the stove. My fault, wasn't watching properly." Cole surveyed the damage while Nora tended to her father. When he returned, his expression was grim. "The structure seems sound, but the interior is destroyed. Stock, fixtures, everything." Her father nodded wearily. "That's the end of Riley's, then. No money to rebuild, and at my age." He trailed off, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. Nora and Cole exchanged glances. Without words, a decision passed between them. "Not the end," Cole said firmly. "A new beginning." Over the next weeks, the community rallied. Neighbors cleared debris, salvaged what could be saved, and helped frame new shelving. Cole directed the reconstruction, drawing on skills he developed rebuilding his own property. Nora managed the volunteers and designed a more efficient layout for the new store. The most surprising assistance came from Walter Jenkins. He arrived one morning with a wagon full of lumber and hardware. "Heard you could use this," he said gruffly to Thomas Riley. "Consider it an investment in the town's future." Before leaving, he paused near Cole. "My boy's got a lot to learn about being a man," he said quietly. "Maybe watching you will teach him something." By September, the store was ready to reopen, transformed into Riley and Rafferty General Goods. The farm's products now occupied nearly a third of the space, with the rest devoted to traditional general store offerings. On opening day, it seemed the entire county turned out to see the resurrection. Nora worked the counter, no longer hiding her left hand as she wrapped purchases and made change. Cole moved between the store and their farm stand outside, where fresh produce was selling as fast as they could arrange it. Clara Jenkins approached the counter, a basket full of purchases on her arm. "Nora, the store looks wonderful," she said, genuinely warmed for perhaps the first time. "And I heard your announcement, congratulations." Nora smiled, her hand drifting unconsciously to her slightly rounded belly beneath her apron. "Thank you, Clara. We're very happy." "You deserve it," Clara said, then lowered her voice. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For before. For how Philip treated you. For how I didn't stop it. Nora considered this unexpected apology. We all grow in our own time, she said finally. I'm glad you found your way. As the store finally emptied that evening, Nora's father surveyed the transformed space with tears in his eyes. Your mother would be proud, he told Nora. Of all this. Of you? Cole joined them, slipping his arm around Nora's waist. I was thinking, he said, the room upstairs could be converted into living quarters. Save you the daily trip from the farm once the baby comes. Thomas brightened. You'd stay in town? Part-time, Cole clarified. The farm still needs us, but this way we can manage both. And you can be near your grandchild. That night, as they rode back to their farm beneath a canopy of stars, Nora rested her head against Cole's shoulder. Did you ever imagine this? She asked. When you rode into town that rainy day? He smiled into the darkness. I hoped. But the reality is better than any imagining. She twined her fingers both right and left with his. They mocked my hand, but you saw what it could hold. A heart, he finished for her. Mine. Our child's. A future. The wagon continued down the moonlit road toward home, carrying them toward a tomorrow built on courage, kindness, and the quiet strength of hands that hold what truly matters.